Careful what you say or you'll get in bigger.
All right, we are back. We are back. The boys are back in town. Oh, all right. So, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good. Awesome.
So, yeah. So, just note to anybody, especially you guys, we're getting the winds from Kentucky. I guess that if I all of a sudden disappear, it's not a demon. It's probably just high winds. And,
does that mean Thanos snapped again?
Yeah, he took me again, bastard.
Vickers was vickered.
By Thanos, though. I mean, so that's pretty cool.
That's not bad.
No,
that's not bad. All right, we got a bunch of people coming in. Melissa, Bob, Tiffany, nice. I love it. Ryan, sweet. All right, tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about the Amityville case. And I mean, this is a broad topic because it really spans two families. At least two families.
At least, yeah.
A bunch of stuff. So I don't know how much we're going to get into tonight, how much we're going to cover, but we'll see where it goes. This is kind of just an open topic, and we're going to go. I'm going to start off with, I have a timeline, so I'll just go in to a brief timeline. I'll just hit some dates and go through, and I won't go through the notes that I have with it, just to give everyone like a rundown of some of the events. So basically, let's see, June 28th, 1965, Ronald Sr. and Louise DeFeo purchased 112 Ocean Drive from a couple, Joseph and Mary Riley. 1974, on November 13th, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed 6 members of his family, his parents, and then 4 siblings, with 35 caliber rifle while they were asleep. The murders occurred around 3:15 a.m. And that's important because that comes up later.
The witching hour.
Yeah. One of them. Depending
a lot of negative energy during time.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Here we go. All right. Let's see. 1975, October, DeFeo stood trial. And then in November, he was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 sentences of 25 years to life. December 18th of 1975, George and Kathy Lutz and their 3 children, Kathy's 3 children, not George's 3 children. They move into the house. They bought it for $80,000. And then 28 days later, which isn't that a movie? Ain't that a zombie movies?
Yes.
28 days later. Yeah, okay. 28 days later, they flee the house, claiming the events were too frightening to recount until later when it came out in a book. So, yeah. Let's see. March 6th, 1976, the house was investigated by, and I put air quotes around investigated, by Ed and Lorraine Warren and a television crew and about 25 to 30 people on one night. We'll get into that a little bit later because that's where the demonic boy comes in, and I really want to tackle that shit. Let's see, August 30th, 1976, the Lutzes returned the house to the bank without making one single mortgage payment. Now, no, they did put a 20% down payment on it, but they never paid a mortgage payment. March 18th, 1977, Jim and Barbara Cromartie? I'm butchering your name, I know it. Cromartie purchased a house from the bank. Reported no activity. September of 1977, book based on the true story by Jay Anson comes out. 79, the first film comes out based on the book. August 17th, 1987, Peter and Jeanne O'Neill purchased the house, changed the attic windows from the evil eye looking things to square windows, and then also reported no activity. June 10th, 1997, Brian Wilson purchased the house, renovated the property significantly, including like filling in the pool and strengthening the foundation. No reported activity. And then the last of my timeline is March of 2021. Ronald DeFeo passed away in custody. He was in a detention center and he died. So that's the basic idea. There's been a book, obviously. There's a book that ran about it. A true story, which is something that we love talking about here when things are based on true stories. The movie came out, made it a pop culture icon kind of thing. And there's been stories ever since, especially when it comes to the Warrens. So with that timeline out, I'm going to pass it to Dave and get your opening thoughts, statements, what have you.
Well, you did the timeline, which is good. To me, it's interesting that nothing happened, and after they moved out, the people that lived there afterwards never reported of anything going on. A lot of the stuff has been bunked over the years, or they've found out that there just isn't anything to it. The things didn't happen. The cloven hoof print in the snow, there wasn't any snow when they said that they found them there. The records of the police supposedly being called to the house. There was no police, had no record ever being called. The red room downstairs that was supposedly concealed and hidden. Marty, the people moved in afterwards that you mentioned, they're like, yeah, what hidden room? It's easy to see. So, yeah. That's my question with all the things that went on and this back and forth, and then lawyer out, DeFeo lawyer coming out and basically saying it was all a hoax. Trying to get a new trial, it's a hoax. We'd all up. I guess my question is how and do people still believe that this happened? And,
Okay.
and if there was anything going on there, even George Lutz before he died, he still yes, it did happen. Maybe it was exaggerated in the books and the movie, but things did happen. And then his son, he is I think 2013 was it? I'll have to. Yeah, 2013 is Daniel. He did say a lot of it was true. His father was possessed, but they exaggerate. Then you find out the kid hated his dad. There's all kinds of interesting family stuff going on there as well. So his father, his stepfather, I think it was Daniel was George was this father. So that's interesting. I guess I must still be glitching, making weird sounds. I can see them. I will post my opening comments, and if this does not improve, I'll probably just listen tonight and do expressions. Yeah, I'll end expressions. All right. I'll turn it over to Tim. It's going to be really annoying. Kathy, I've tried plugging back in 3-4 times before it came on the air. So I don't know if it's something on our end. Everything's up like it normally is. No, yeah, haven't done anything differently. So it might just be a glitchy server point at somewhere around here. So it is what it is. We'll try to get work.
All right, Tim, what do you got?
How old did you say? This is something I didn't think about when I started reading about this, but how old was he when he did the murders?
He was 23.
Jeez, did you see his picture?
Yeah.
Just like people back in the 70s just look older. Like he looked
the beard.
23?
It was the beard thing.
My God.
Yeah, they really they had those thick beards, and like, all right, so here's I'm gonna share a picture. Let's see, there he is. That's him.
He's not 23.
But you know what? Look at the face. He's got the baby kind of face, the baby kind of cheeks. It's he let his beard grow.
Yeah.
And it's really my son does that. I mean, he's younger than this, and he lets his beard grow out, and he gets he almost looks like a leprechaun, the way his beard comes in. But he looks so much older. And then when he suddenly shaves it off, like he's going back to school, he shaves it all off, and he looks like a freaking 12-year-old again. I mean, it's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, 23 to, and spend the rest of your life in prison.
Well, yeah. Well, I figured that there wasn't going to be anything much that I could find that you guys weren't going to find. So there was I listened to either a podcast or something with Melanie, one of our friends, and she attacked this when we did a similar topic, or I watched them do a similar topic a few years ago, where she got actual court documents from the testimony. Excuse me. I'm already starting to get drunk. Anyway, that was fascinating to me, and I never really thought about getting the court reports and looking at the transcripts of testimony, and it was really eye-opening. So I shot for that today, and should have done that sooner, but found some pretty interesting stuff. I think you found the same stuff I did. Actually, we kind of came across the same website, which is a very good website.
Right.
But I think also Dave, I heard him mention, how do people still buy into this at this point? I really don't know, other than just willfully wanting it because it's such a cultural icon, I think, amongst, just America and paranormal enthusiasts themselves. Not to mention the Warrens were in on it. So
I think, too, at the time, because a lot of these, like last week we talked about The Entity. This week we're talking about Amityville, and then you have things like The Exorcist that came out. These all came out around the 70s, and it was pre-internet. It was so much harder to find information. I mean, some of the stuff you really had to go. Like the DeFeo murders they weren't national news. It didn't come outside of Amityville, until this aftermath of the Lutzes. So it wasn't like everybody in the country knew that this tragedy happened in this house until the Lutzes started claiming that it was haunted and by demonic presence and stuff. And then it made the news. And then they really started getting into it, and it started going nationwide. So it came into the pop culture, and it was very difficult, if near impossible, to research a lot of the stuff. Like we do. We can go online now and find, like I put the website in the chat room, but this gentleman that wrote another book, Rick Asuna, I'm going to pronounce it that way, Rick Asuna. His website has all of these documents, the letters, confessions, court documents, medical records, if whatever was available. But you can go on and look at them, which is really interesting. But we can do that now in a day, like we can research almost the entire case in one day. I started this morning and just went through and found a whole bunch of information. So I think that's the difference between now and back then, and that's why it grew into such a cultural phenomenon. Plus you got the Warrens with their marketing bullshit.
Yeah, I think that's probably just people with that. You would have to have resources and time, and that's the thing where like you would actually have to go and do hands-on. I don't want to say investigation, but at least going and collecting information. You'd have to take people with resources at the time could probably travel and go to locations like that and collect the information for whatever reports or books that they're going to do, or if they want to say it's a paranormal investigation. Today, people, just like you said, you could come up with a lot of information and never have to leave your office or your house and come up with a pretty well educated guess as to what's going on.
And you can access a lot of stuff, crime scene photos.
Yeah,
I mean, I looked at a lot of them. I'm not going to share any of those because it's not. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I understand looking at them for research, but they're not gruesome, but it's still like these are kids, and I don't want to show them. But yeah, with the rest of the information, you can find so much and piece together a lot of stuff after the fact. And I think that's our greatest asset is that we're so. I'm hearing an echo of me now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That our greatest asset is that we can look. We're what? This happened in 70. The murders happened in 74. So shit, 30, 40, 50 years, almost 50 years later. And we have the benefit of all the records and everything that have been exhausted and then digitized and put online for us to look at, print out, and save. So it's much easier to do a cursory investigation now than it was back then. So what do you think about some of these claims? What do we got for claims? The one thing that I wanted to just discuss, I mean, there's one thing I really want to discuss, but I'll get into it later. But I don't like a true story. So when that's on the book, I have a problem with that. And not only do I have a problem with when it says true story, but when you have things like dialogue, conversations between people, I find that I find that comical, almost, because it's like you're talking about, this book was published in 77. So this was 5 years later. 5, 6, 7, 3 years later.
Math.
5, 6, 7. 3 years later. Holy
Thank you.
Dave, we need your mic to be fixed. You're the math guy. So
that's easy math. You can.
3 years after the fact, they're putting conversations in this book between two people that the author wasn't there for. The parents might not have been there for. Certainly not the Warrens or anybody like that. And it's like they're remembering everything with exact detail. And I find that extremely difficult to accept. As soon as I start seeing dialogue, I check out. I honestly check out, and I can't take it seriously. So that's one of the issues that I had.
Wasn't some of that based on audio recordings, tape recordings they had though?
You're tripping me out, Dave.
Again?
So yes, I think some of them were based on audio recordings, but they were still done after the fact. So they had hired the author to come in and do this book, to write this book. I think the lawyer actually was the one that initiated it. I may be wrong on that, but the lawyer that was also the lawyer for DeFeo was the one that initiated this. And then he started doing his own interviews. So you're still talking maybe 2 years after that this happened. So I still have a problem with dialogue. And even then, it's people like, if we get together and say, all right, you know what, we're going to do an interview about a conversation that we had 2 years ago, I'm not going to remember what I said.
No.
Dave's had enough. He's like, fuck this. I'll be back. All right. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I had. What do you think, Tim?
The based on a true story, and a true story is just awful. I don't have to go much further than the Warrens and figure out. I mean, I shouldn't say that because the Warrens I shouldn't say it like it sounds. Just because the Warrens were involved doesn't mean that some of the things that people have experienced that they didn't experience. The Warrens are just like a red flag to me.
Yeah.
Anytime and anything I read with their involvement is just an overblown, out of proportion claims of grandeur and just amazement, some demon. It's just it's. I don't even. There's not a whole lot left to say about that. I think it kind of just boils down for me that I don't know the motivation or what happened. I know that I read a lot about allegations of his prior heavy drug use. I don't know if that's true. I can only say that I read that in some of the transcripts.
Right.
I don't know how or what drove him at some point to do what he did. But it's just, it's a terrible tragedy. I mean, I think it's important to know that this is things that happen. That this, whatever. I don't know if it's missed mental health. I don't know if it was some type of previous childhood abuse. I don't know if it was maybe a combination of missed mental health, maybe some type of previous childhood abuse, and substance abuse or substance addiction that led to him killing his family. I think it's a disservice to then say, well, it was demons that got inside of him and did it. It kind of takes away, I think, from the victims and goes away from his responsibility. But I like at some point, I think it was 2000 that we were talking about when he wrote his letter saying that there absolutely was no ghosts, there was no demons, there were no demons, that he and a couple other people committed the murders, and that was it. There's nothing more to it. And that was his letter that he wrote. Right.
There is a handwritten letter.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring it up here. That I'm going to try and I had to copy these in a different kind of way because the website would not let me just download. So there's Dave.
I don't know if that's any better.
Oh, that's way better.
That's awesome. Now you sound good.
Okay,
right.
Well, I may have to run down and get the cord for the iPad if the battery dies. What a clusterfuck.
This is the handwritten letter from Ronald DeFeo. And down here it says, there's only the real truth with which, what does that say? Oh my God, he sucks. Which
I know. Some of his writing, I thought the same thing. I was like, really? Come on.
Which speaks for itself. That's it. The real truth, which speaks for itself. Yes, as it was cold-blooded murder. Period. No ghosts, no demons. And it just says it was just him and two other guys. Let me see if I can find the rest of it. But that was the letter from him, and I believe that was to either the lawyer or something about Hans Holzler that wanted to do like some kind of TV special and wanted his help or support or wanted him to be interviewed by the TV producers. Something about that.
Yeah.
All right.
You see it? Did you get the right one?
Let me see. I'm looking. There's so many here.
I know.
There's the letter for the diocese.
The what?
Shut up. That thing. Transcript. Unanimously guilty. Where is it? DeFeo deed. DeFeo grave.
Butch DeFeo confesses. It's kind of near the top. I bet that's it.
Near the top.
Yeah.
Let's see.
There it is.
Butch DeFeo. Oh, there it is. Butch DeFeo. Okay, so it just says, let's see. I'll share that too. So you guys can all see. We can all share in this. So down here, period. No ghost, no demons, just 3 people in which I was one. The facts. The assistant district attorney, medical examiner, both say at my something people 3 or 4 people committed the crime. Yes. See and read the transcript. So that's about it. And that's interesting. I mean, and like we said, we were talking before the show, and there's a diagram, and this is going to be, it's a little weird, but I'll share this again. So this diagram here shows the night of the murders where everyone was. So you have 2 people here, master bedroom, 1 person here. That's Allison. and then Mark and John are in there. Apparently, some of the stuff that I read said that the other sister was in on it.
Yeah.
That she was part of it, and it was actually her idea to kill the parents so that she and Ronald actually came in here, and each of them, I think Ronald killed the mom and the sister killed the dad. And then one of the friends that were helping them, because he had two buddies with them, one ran away. Ronald went to go get him, and while he was gone, the sister actually went and killed the other kids. And then when Ronald came back, he found out about it and lost his mind and killed her. That's one of the stories, one of the versions that I heard, or that I read. But this would actually make more sense if there were three people in here, because just the events of that night just seems so weird that 6 people could be shot with a gun and no one hears gunshots. No one woke up. Everyone is still in bed. It's just,
it seems like was it in the movie that they timed his rifle shots with like a storm, thunder, or something that was going on?
I don't remember. I don't think I actually watched the whole movie.
I watched when I was a kid. I watched the movie. It just, it seems like there was something about, but I don't know. Even as a kid, I was like, why is that not waking anybody up?
Are you thinking of Shawshank Redemption?
No, I know that one. That's a good movie.
When he hit the pipe,
that was a good movie.
That was great. When he hit the pipe in time with the thunder.
Yes.
Or the lightning strikes. Yeah, that's why. As soon as you said that, I'm like, I just watched that last night. Maybe you're talking
Andy
about that.
Crawled through 500 yards of shit and came out smelling like a rose.
The motive, I don't think there was any motive. Well, in one court document, Ronald DeFego he claims that God talks to him, and that he was like a tool or messenger for God. So I'll look to see if I can find that again. But yeah, what else you got, Dave? You can speak now, so contribute.
I don't know what I missed. So it sounds like you were just going through the murders and what happened there. So the motive, I mean, geez, so he talked to God. All right, so God told him to kill the family? Right. Pretty sure that may have been the wrong message, or maybe it wasn't God talking to him. Anyway, but yeah, I guess depending on what you want to move into, some of the claims of the paranormal activity.
Yeah, we can do that.
So all kinds of stuff. They talk about, what was it, a 250-pound door that was basically ripped open, windows opening and closing with the latches or the locks being bent. The green slime ooze, which I think even George Lutz eventually said that may have been a little exaggerated or it didn't happen. What else? Oh, the red eyes peering in the window with the footprints outside.
The red eyes scared the shit out of me as a kid. That's all. I just wanted to say that.
I would have to agree with you.
When I was a kid, all the blinds were fucking shut after that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just that and the description. Yeah, as a kid, I remember watching that and listening and reading, and it's like, damn. Then every time you see a red brake light outside your window, you're like, shit, there it is. Demon's there. But the claims, the different paranormal claims, I mean, even what did he say? His wife Kathy was at one point levitated, turned into basically a 90-year-old hag that she went back to normal. But I mean, some of these claims, if you look at them, there's a mix of things that you could label demonic, haunting, poltergeist. It's almost like they threw a whole bunch of different things together.
Right.
It's like, well, we've seen this, we've seen The Exorcist, and we've heard about this, and we've heard about that. Let's throw all this stuff together and just combine it. And it just, a lot of those claims, I mean, who really was there to experience it besides the family and the kids? Even the claim, I guess we could start, let's talk with the priest. that supposedly came and blessed the house, came in the house, went upstairs and heard the voice, get out. And then afterwards, there's reports that he got sick and he got blisters on his hands like he had been burned. But that might not actually have happened at all if he even went into the house, because the actual priest, I think it was in one of the court documents or the affidavit,
yes,
that he said, I never did anything besides talk to them on the phone.
So yeah, it says here there's an affidavit from affidavit, is that right? Yeah, from Rockville Center Diocese. I can't say that word.
What is that? What is that, Kenny?
The church, the Catholic Church.
I can't say
community.
The dioceses.
That thing. They sent an official letter, and it says that at the time in question, Father Ralph Pecoraro. Wow, this is perfect for our show. The priest we're talking about. Oh, Dave, you disappeared. Uh-oh. Oh, he's having so. Oh, there he is.
This is not good.
You all went black. All right. So he worked at the tribunal of the Rockwell Center. He was involved as a counselor of the Lutzes during, as you call it, the Amityville Horror story / hoax. Because of his concern over the publicity attached to the story, he petitioned and was granted leave of absence for personal reasons on May 1st, 1978. At the time, he no longer worked for us. He went to Oakland and worked there. However, he eventually left there and dropped out of sight. He surfaced on occasion, but made no attempt to return and serve, even though we encouraged him to do so. Eventually, his whereabouts became unknown to us until hearing of his death in 1987. We maintain that the story was a false report. In November of 1977, our attorneys prepared a substantial list to be submitted to the publisher of numerous inaccuracies, factually incorrect references, and untrue statements regarding events, persons, and occurrences that never happened.
Yep.
So yeah, according to the other court documents, again, there's a lot of documents on here, so I'm trying to go through them, but according to one of the court documents, the priest had the only contact he had with the family was a phone call.
Right.
And there was no showing up. There was no of the famous get out thing that happened, which, I mean, that's like the most popular thing about the movie. Get out. I mean, that's pretty cool. But
yeah, and then there was I don't think there was a call then, because he supposedly came to the house December 18th. And then he supposedly called them on December 24th and told them to stay out of that room or to, be careful with the house. And the call was all broken up and staticky, but that supposedly didn't happen either.
Right. Right.
So that part of it seems to be false, completely false.
So yeah, there's shady shit going on there. And it's just, it really goes back to like this author. It almost sounds on par with other, like The Exorcist, hey, just make it a good story, just fill in the blanks, make it creepy. And I have to remember too, that according to this, the book was published in 1977. The events happened in 1975. So this was plenty of time to get inspired by The Exorcist, because The Exorcist book came out in 1971 and the film came out in 1973. So it was already a cultural phenomenon then.
That's a good point. That's like a big cash-in item right there. Yeah,
big item. And figure if they came up, I know that there were financial issues with George Lutz. That right before or right after they bought the house, he had to close one of his businesses. He had like construction businesses or something, and he had to close one down. But they were able to come up with $20,000, which was the 25% down payment on the house.
But did he ever make it for sure?
Well, he put the down payment down.
Man, I thought I read somewhere there was questions about that, even if he actually
put it down.
Put it down.
I read the parts that I was reading, and again, this is coming from different sources, was that the money may have actually come from the lawyer, Weber.
Oh, okay. That
because
might be, okay.
He was already trying to get DeFeo a new trial, and figuring this story might not only generate income but also generate a need for a new trial for his client.
Okay.
So that might, again, that's not confirmed. It's just something else that I read. So there was a question.
Yeah. So just a quick. I know this is my brain.
Sure.
$25,000 in 1975 is equivalent to $125,000 in 2021 purchasing power. Doesn't, what it varies. But what? That's quite substantial. That is quite a big gamble for somebody.
Yeah.
That's a lot of motivation to make this story work.
Right. And to get out, because they gave it back. I didn't know you could do this. They gave the house back to the bank.
I mean, I guess sure. Just walk over. Here's the keys.
Yeah.
Tell them I'm not going to pay, so you might as well have it back.
Right. It's just strange. And they did it. Let's see. So that was August of 76, and they purchased it in December of 75. So they had it for several months and never made a mortgage payment.
What did they buy it for? Was it 80? I think 80,000.
80,000. Yeah. $80,000.
And then the next couple that bought it got even a better deal. I think they only paid 55 for it after that.
Yes.
That's a deal.
Yeah. Eventually, Brian Wilson, the one that I did find, paid $310,000 for it. So somebody made some profit. Somebody made some good profit.
Well, the last time it was on the market, what was it at? Over $1 million?
Yeah, I think so. Over like 1.2 or 1.4 or something like that. Yeah.
That's a nice bed and breakfast. I mean,
can you imagine that?
I would do that. Just saying, it's an investment there.
You'd have ghost hunters out of your wazoo wanting to come stay there.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
$500 a night.
Actually, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I do have a picture of it because I ordered it and it'll be here in a few days. But People magazine, the September 17th, 1979 issue of People magazine, had an interview where William Weber, who was the lawyer, he argued that the story and Anson's book were not true. And he actually says, I know this book is a hoax. We created this story over many bottles of wine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I mean, I can see that happening. And I want to show you. I love having all this stuff here. Let's see. There's that's the page. And oops. So it was right here talking about William Weber. And he's talking about suing for breach of agreement because he had made an agreement with the Lutzes to do a book. And I guess they went ahead and hired somebody else. And it's right here. Another writer with 41 hours of tape that preceded. And let's see. I know this book is a hoax, charges Weber. We created this story, this horror story, over many bottles of wine. I told George Lutz that Ronnie DeFeo used to call the neighbor's cat a pig. Weber said George was a con artist. He improvised on that. And in the book, he sees a demon pig through a window.
Jeez.
Was that actually part of the movie? Because I remember the whole demon pig being like a deleted scene that they filmed.
I don't remember it.
Okay,
I think I something about it, but I might be misattributing it to a memory of the movie. But I remember the demon pig, but I don't know if it's from discussion that we've had like this or if it was actually from the movie. But again, I watched it when I was really little, so
right.
Yeah. And it scared the shit out of me, especially those eyes staring in the window. That and Jaws kind of fucked me up. And Salem's Lot with the dude hovering around the window. Yeah, screw that.
So, where did the whole idea of the possession come from, though?
Possession.
Where did the demon idea come from? Besides Ed and Lorraine Warren, which showed up and said, "There's an evil presence. There's a demon. You need an exorcism."
So that was.
And when exactly did Ed and Lorraine Warren show up again? Because they were only in that house 20. How long?
Just overnight.
Right, but how long were the Lutzes there? They were only there for.
So the Lutzes were there. Let's see. The Lutzes moved in December of '75, and
they were out by
March.
Oh, was it March?
March 6th.
Middle of March. Okay.
Yeah, March 6th of '76. That's when Ed and Lorraine Warren came in, together with a television crew from Channel 5, New York, and a reporter, Michael Linder, from WNEW-FM radio. And my notes here saying, then I go into the photographs, the Demon Boy photograph, which is something I do want to cover.
Well, do you think it could have started out with his initial defense saying that he's hearing voices and God's talking to him? I
don't know.
Do you think at some point that could have been misconstrued, or maybe someone just was like, "Well, it's not God, that's a demon," because God wouldn't tell you to kill your family, only Satan would.
So I don't remember anything coming up about demon until the Warrens got there.
Shocker.
That's when the first demon sighting came up. Ed confidently saying, "You have a demon in this house," and then there were two psychics that were part of the crew that came in and also reaffirmed that there were demonic entities and evil entities in the house. And I think that's when also the idea of the Indian chief, that's where, so it wasn't actually a demon possessing anyone. It was the spirit of an Indian chief, because the land was where there was a certain tribe that would come to this area where this house was built and drop off their mentally ill members of their tribe and leave them there to die.
I'm looking for it.
And that was part of this psychic vision, and it really took hold, even though that tribe wasn't in that area.
Right.
So when I
Native American elders shot that whole pile of crap down pretty quick. Yeah, they were. Yeah, the was it Chinook? I don't remember the exact tribe they attributed it to, but yeah, they would take their mentally ill and they would bring them to that location, that land, and then they would kind of leave them there and they would die. At least that's the story that they came up with. And of course, the Native American elders are like, no.
No, that's not
next.
What happened. No.
But even if that's the case, I mean, where are you extracting demon from, leaving supposedly mentally ill people that just pass away in a location?
I think it just more. I honestly, I think it came from the Warrens. That's what I'm going with, because that's what I remember. The first mention of anything demonic. It's coming from Ed Warren. So that's
I don't know either, but it would not shock me. It would not shock me if it turned into a demonic thing after the Warrens showed up. For sure. I'm looking through the same list you are, I think, looking for the first.
I mean, I guess one of the other things was, did DeFeo ever say that there was any other demonic presence, or they thought it was demons there?
DeFeo,
because
and correct me if
George
I'm wrong,
found out about the murders, I think, through a friend, or the real estate agent told them about the murders after the first home inspection, if I'm recalling that correctly. But then he later on heard from somebody he knew, or friend, he got more details about it. So I'm wondering, did DeFeo, or was there any rumors running around about demons causing him to murder his family? And then George heard about it, and then that helped bring that about?
From what I've seen on this so far, excuse me, is that his defense has changed 3 or 4 times.
Right.
First, it was a hitman, I believe, from the mafia, and then it changed into that he was hearing voices, and I don't think he ever said demonic. I think he was saying he was hearing voices from God, and that at some point in the transcripts, and I'm doing this from memory, so don't be 100%, but it seemed like he even was talking about feeling good because he carried out the word of God when he killed his family. And then it changed to what was the?
So let me
yeah, go ahead.
Correction here. So the Indian chief possessing Ronald DeFeo idea did not come from the Warrens. It came from Hans Holzer.
Oh, yeah.
His people. So this says on January 13th, 1977, Hans Holzer entered I don't like this guy anyway, but he entered 112 Ocean Avenue with William Weber, who was the lawyer, Bernard Burton, Laura Didio, and medium Ethel Johnson Myers. Myers claimed that Indians resided on the property to protect an old burial ground, insisting that whoever lived in the DeFeo house was going to be the victim of the Indians' fierce anger. Holzer further theorized in his book, Murder in Amityville, that the spirit of the dead Indian chief possessed Ronald DeFeo Jr. and caused him to kill his family. This claim was beyond absurd, but it didn't stop Butch or his lawyer from feeding the public frenzy. So they're the ones that put it out.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going through this.
That's right. I remember even Hans Holzer was...
I noticed how you said that slowly.
Very slowly. He even wanted to come and testify on his behalf, saying that he truly knew that he was possessed by a Native American. And that's the reason he killed him, which I would have loved to have seen that, but I don't think it happened.
I'm reading up on what it says about the Warrens.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
but being possessed by the spirit of a Native American that causes you to do something still different than a demon.
Well, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that at some point it has morphed, at least culturally. I absolutely. I don't doubt that it was probably from Warrens, but I don't know, so I can't say that. But there's nothing culturally. I don't know. You tell the story. I can absolutely see, especially after The Exorcist. This being right piggybacked with it, like I don't know if it really needs somebody to say this was a demon. Like I don't see anything where DeFeo at least had said it was a demon. I don't see Holzer saying it was a demon. Probably, I would wager some money that it came from Warrens, but I don't know that. But I can see where this would at some point amongst the people that listen to it and follow it, it has morphed into a demon for sure. I don't think it really needs a claim in this situation, especially piggybacking so close off of The Exorcist.
Well, and look at today. It doesn't matter what's going on or what type of anomalous activity or what somebody reports. There's plenty of people and groups out there that are going to jump right to the demon explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It looks like the Warrens, Lorraine, because she was the alleged clairvoyant, claimed there was an evil presence that she had felt when they visited the house, that she felt the spirit of DeFeo? How did she do that? He was in jail.
She felt his presence there.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute. Something's not right here. Let's see. Lorraine Warren, who claimed to be clairvoyant, insisted she encountered Butch's spirit during the seance. The encounter was so awful and he was so sinister that she felt she was absolutely nothing she could do to help or eject his spirit from the house. This is when they were there in 76. The guy was still alive. He was in jail. And she's claiming she's feeling his evil spirit in the house. So that doesn't add up at all. I don't know. I think I'm going along.
Because he was astral projecting.
Well, I guess so. The guy that says no ghost, no demons, just me. He's astral projecting. I think I'm going to go along with what Tim was mentioning, that it was just this is something that morphed or evolved over time. You know, you have different psychics, and the Warrens coming in saying it's evil. You have Holzer coming in saying it was this Indian chief, and making it sound like it was a mental institution for American or Native Americans for the land, and just making everything out to be evil. Mm-hmm. And this, in our modern times, evolves automatically into demons or demonic entities. And I think that's pretty much, especially when the movies came out. And you're talking how many movies have been made about this? And it's always evil and seeing like demonic figures, because I think there was one point where George Lutz claimed to have seen a demonic figure with horns, and then later changed it to something just ugly. That he just saw something ugly and didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I think all these different versions that came out, especially when you say something has horns, fuck yeah. I mean, that's demons all the way. Yeah. All right.
It's always a demon.
It's always a demon.
It's always a demon.
So I want to get into something, because I started doing some work on this because I really got involved.
Okay.
Demon boy.
I picked this picture because I knew that you would like this one.
You were psychic. You were psychic. Let me get let me share this and have my notes up still. So I did some things today. So let me show you is this the picture? Let me see. All right, so that's the picture. Dun, dun, share screen. There's the picture. All right. Now this was, according to the stories, during the course of an investigation on March 6th. This is one where the Warrens were there, TV crew, radio crew. There were 25 to 30 people in the house. And that was, let's see, that was from George Lutz himself. He did like a short video that you can find on YouTube. I'll post a link where he describes things that happens. And he has a whole bunch of pictures that I had not seen previously, which was pretty cool because it's from that night. So 25 to 30 people in this house, and a photographer by the name of Gene Campbell set up a camera with infrared film on a time lapse setting. So this camera was allegedly put in this position. This is on the second floor. It's at the top of the stairs. So when you see the railing on the left side there is a stairway going down to the first floor to the left as well. And I guess right where the camera is, it's a landing, and there's like 2 or 3 steps going up to the main floor there. And what you're seeing, let me see if I can get my pointer over here. So right here, this is a towel closet, nothing but bath towels in there. It's very short. It's not very deep at all. This is a bathroom over here. And this is, that was a child's room, Missy's room, I think. I'm looking, making sure. But it was one of the kids' rooms. And this was set up all night, and I don't know what the intervals were. It nowhere does it say how, like, was it every 15 minutes or every hour or anything like that. But this was one of the photos. And it's interesting fact, when you look at the photos that are available, and I think there were 40 some photos taken, and I only saw about 4 of them, but the position changes. So like this point of the railing here, when you overlay all the pictures, the camera moves each time. So I don't know if somebody was in there repositioning the camera or something, but something was happening. But anyway, here's a face right there. And this is allegedly a little boy ghost. The background on this is that this photo was allegedly taken on March 6, 1976, but it did not see the light of day. No one saw it until 1979 when it was introduced on the Merv Griffith show.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Incidentally, during the Lutz's tour of the country promoting the movie that was coming out. So I'm not saying it's connected, but it's connected. I'm saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Right.
So let me show you a close-up of this, because I'm pretty sure I have it. This is a close-up. And they are trying to say that it's John DeFeo, one of the small boy that was killed, one of the victims. And I'm looking at it going, okay. I mean, it does look like a small face, maybe. I don't think it looks like this kid. There's a predominant hairline here going up much further on the forehead, which you don't see here, but we also see the 70s haircut. This is also not a photograph. This is a sketch of the child. So I don't trust sketches. But I was interested because I started going through. I mentioned something about that video that George Lutz did, and there were a lot of pictures. And some people have said that this child looks like a young guy named Paul Bartz, who was there that night. And this is usually the picture you see of this guy. That he has, well, he doesn't have a beard. Probably one of the few people in the 70s that didn't have a beard. He does have long hair, but he's kind of young. And I noticed the shirt that he has on. So I started looking through the rest of the pictures that we have, and I was able to find a shot of him almost dead on. So this is the kid standing next to Lorraine, and then that's a close-up. It's blurry. I'm sorry. I didn't take these pictures, but
the hair looks close.
The hair looks close. The face looks young. But what I really want to point out is, where is it? So this is a side by side. Look below the railing. In between the railing, this is a plaid shirt. Right here. You can also see it in between the pole and this railing piece here. And I'm looking at it going, okay, this looks like a shirt from here all the way down to here. And in wider pictures, it kind of looks like this is a hand coming across, like a knee. And I'm thinking, all right, this guy, this person looks a little bit taller than a boy, a small boy. I'm also noticing that the shadows, because this dark stripe here, that's not the underside of the railing piece. That's actually a shadow cast by the flash. So this thing is blocking the shadow. The shadow's falling on this thing. So it's a solid thing. It's a solid object right there. The thing we have to look at is that this is an infrared photo. It's not a visible light photo. So things are going to look different. Right. So one of the things I did, because I got caught up in this, was I took out, I got my regular visible light camera, and then I got my converted infrared camera out. And I was like, oh, let me set up, let me see if I have plaid around, like a plaid jacket or a plaid shirt. And lucky for me, I do. Because I have everything. I just buy everything. Let me see if it pulls up. There we go. So here's a picture I took. This is the color version. So I have a plaid shirt there and a plaid jacket there, different colors, obviously. And then I threw in my wife's jacket that is multicolored because she's a hippie, right there, just for something different. This picture is just converted to black and white. And then these two pictures, this one was shot with an infrared camera in black and white. And this was shot with the same camera in color, but converted to black and white. And I want you to pay special attention to this jacket when it compares to this one shot in infrared. And you can see how the tones change.
Drastically.
Drastically. And I have a better picture here where I put them together. And you can see a definite tonal difference. And that's what's going to happen if you shoot with infrared. So the kid's jacket or the kid's shirt seemed darker in regular images, but I can definitely see it becoming lighter with infrared film because it's a different light source, and it, as you can see, it gets funky with colors. Right. It brings out tonal changes that you just don't see. I mean, in the color. This is the color photo. So definitely different. And after seeing a dozen or so pictures, because there's a bunch. Let me see. So he's in the back there. There he is standing there with the shirt on. And I noticed like these points. They stand out pretty good.
Yeah.
There he is sitting down. So when I look and I see like that point right there, and then there was a point under here. It's very difficult because these pictures suck, but you can see the crisscross pattern of the plaid, and there's the dot. I'm pretty convinced, not 100%. I can't say 100% because there's still more information that's missing, but I'm pretty sure this guy was there. He was there. I know he was there all night. According to all the reports that I see on it, he was there. And they did report that many of the people slept in the second floor bedrooms. So I can see him sitting in there and maybe leaning out and saying, "Hey, what's going on?" and snap.
Right.
The picture takes off. And of course, his eyes are glowing because of red eye. And that's exactly what that is.
Because he's stoned.
But that really caught my interest today. I was like, I've seen this. And then I really started looking at the shirt, like in between the railings. Like, that really looks like a plaid shirt. Let me look through. And I started doing pictures, and he's the only one that's wearing a shirt like that. And it's very plausible it's him. Because I know there was a lot of stories. I've heard people say that it was probably Tim, your buddy, haunted collector guy. Zaffis, yeah, because he's the nephew, and some people claim that they took Johnny Zaffis when he was little and they brought him, and it's him. No, I don't think it was him, because too many people reported that there were no children there. They had a news crew, and I checked the news crew information, like what they could put up, and nobody mentions any kids. So, except for this guy, this was the youngest one there, no beard, looks like a kid, and I'm pretty sure it's him. So that would be my assessment with that. All right. Do we have anything else? You guys have any other notes you want to go over?
Yeah, don't delve too deep in the chat. It got interesting there for a little while.
Oh, somebody said I have plaid behind him. Yeah, that's because this is the shirt that I photographed. That's the one that I photographed. Just to show you the difference in what it looks like. So, this is a jacket, but if it's a regular shirt, yeah, it would come up different. Infrared is really fun for photographers because it comes up with funky colors. Shit shows up so much different that if you weren't told it was infrared and it was shot in black and white, you wouldn't realize what you were looking at sometimes, just because it looks so different. And that's evident when you do any kind of landscape. When you take pictures outside, the grass and the leaves, it looks like snow because it all comes out white. You don't see any of the greenery because I forget what it is, but infrared light passes through the grass and the leaves. So you only get the light or the white image. You don't get the actual tonal image of it. So it's really, really cool. All right, kids. That was your photography lesson for the day. I don't know if there was any other there. I had a few things. Let me see. The Red Room that came up. I know that was big in the movie, but like from what I found, from what I saw from pictures, it was like this little under the staircase cubby hole. It wasn't.
Yeah, not hidden, not concealed.
Right.
The owners, after the Lutzes, they're like, nope, not concealed at all. It's right there.
Yeah, right there. There's nothing special. Not a portal to hell. No, nothing. Nope. And just the fact that the owners afterward, all the owners afterwards, have reported nothing going on.
Well, the movers that showed up the day after the Lutzes left to go get their shit, they didn't report anything either. They're just like, yeah, nothing.
Right.
I mean, after all this activity that happened that scared them out of the house, not a simple thing not a single simple thing happened when the movers were there.
The movers were on point too. They were like, they were ready, head on a swivel.
I would assume so if they heard the stories.
Right.
You would think if anybody was primed and jumpy and ready for something to happen, it would have been them.
Yeah.
Right. And this
depending
happened
on what they knew.
Like they moved in. So the Lutzes moved in 13 months after the murders happened.
Yep.
So it was already well known in the community. It was the murder house. You know, they knew it like that. But it didn't go outside. So if anything, if the movers came, they would might be aware if they were interested at all. They might be aware that, all right, this is where a couple murders took place, you know. But beyond that, I mean, unless you actually like read a newspaper and then you knew exactly where it was and you've been like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this, you probably would show up at the house and not even know.
Right.
You know, there's nothing that stands out. Even when I went, my wife and I went 3 years ago, we went into the neighborhood, and I mean, there's signs up now saying no loitering, and you know, you can't, you're not allowed to stop in front of the house anymore. So we actually did like the walking selfie as we walked by, taking it, you know, but
the walk by,
yeah, a little drive by. But it's a very quiet and unassuming neighborhood. There's nothing to say, oh my God, something happened here. You wouldn't think about it unless you knew what the house was, you know, already. So that's all I got. I mean, I don't have too much more. We spent a lot of time researching. I know I did, going through the records, but
it's the same old shit. There's nothing new. It's the same old story from before. There's really no new information that's really come out. The newest thing I stumbled across is from Danny, the kid, basically coming out in 2013 saying that, yeah, things did happen at the house. It may have been blown out of proportion a little bit, but things did happen. But not even his brother and sister would endorse that.
Right.
So I don't know if he was just thinking, hey, I need to make some money off this deal since the parents did. I want my cut. Maybe that's what he was doing. There was some other thoughts that if there was anything paranormal going on, it was maybe a poltergeist type activity, but that's been picked apart pretty well, and that's probably not what it was either. But yeah, I mean, when you get a lawyer come out saying, yeah, we sat down, had a couple bottles of wine, and came up with this whole thing, it's pretty hard to believe anything happened.
Yeah.
The
Anything
admission, the
paranormal at
admission
all.
that the admission that people came up with it to lie about it is equally as damning as Warren showing up to endorse it. Both of
And
those tell me it's not real.
The money and the lawsuits. When you start digging into it and you find the lawsuits going back and forth between everyone, that tells you everything you need to know. Really, I mean, it's
all about money. That's
Yeah.
all it was. Money and fame. That's it.
This was not something about like a family that went homeless, which is another thing, because when George and Kathy Lutz bought that house, they had just gotten married not too long before, and they each had their own house, which there is no mention that they actually sold it. And in fact, when they left 28 days later, they went to one of the houses to stay. So they still had other properties, which doesn't make sense either, because you would think, like, if you're getting married, if you got married and you're moving into a new house, why would you keep two other separate houses? That it doesn't make sense at all. So Skip's got a question here. Why did the Warrens make so much money off of the Amityville? Because they're con artists. They're fucking con artists.
I really don't know how much money they actually made.
Right.
I think sometimes it's just about exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they made money off it, but it's also maybe in the 1970s and early 80s, it was the way to keep your name out there. Without social media, you could show up. It was a famous murder, mass murder. It was nationwide coverage. So why not show up and say you're looking for a demon? Again, it might not be that they made money off of that specifically, but they got their name inside the story. So when the story's told, their name comes up and it keeps their name running. So maybe investing time in that, you didn't get paid directly from Amityville, but the fact that you were involved with it pays off benefits in the long run because your name's still out there.
Right. Yeah. It's as long as because reading their other exploits, their other cons, they basically, if they showed up and they could get in for a couple hours or a couple days, that allowed them to talk about it in their lectures, which they charged for.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they could also, in cases where they could dominate, they could hire the author themselves to write the book, which would become a best-selling book. And I mean, you could just go around and lecture, hey, I was at the Amityville house and this is what we found. And we have footage because this radio station from New York came with us with a camera crew. So we have all this footage of us doing this. And look at this demon photo. We were there that night. Even though they didn't take that photo, they can still claim that they were there. And this was a result of their investigation.
Sure.
So, yeah. I mean, I could see that being up on a projection screen during one of their lectures and being, look what we got, And this is a demonic case because that's all they did. Everything.
All they did. Everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, they could definitely make money off of that. And that was their MO. That's pretty much how they made their money. Just going from family to family and exploiting them and taking advantage of this family. Oh, I fucking hate them people. I mean, I don't wish people to be dead, but I'm glad that they are no longer around to exploit anyone anymore. That's how I'm going to say it. I think that's a nice way to say it. I'm not sure. I don't give a shit. Fuck them.
Did they ever go to a house where they didn't find a demon?
Not that I know of. I don't know. I have I think 2 of their books, and I bought them only because I had to do research.
You were drunk? No, I mean, what?
Well, when am I not drunk? I mean, let's be real. No, I was doing research for the Conjuring House, the history of the Conjuring House, and I know that they had written a chapter about it, and I accidentally bought one book because I thought it was in there and it wasn't, and I was really pissed because now I was stuck with that book. But I still have it. So let's see. Any other questions? We're going to wrap this up. We're over the hour mark. We're at an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to say if there's any questions, any questions, get them in now. Oh, wait. John, when did the bees come from? I don't remember bees. I remember the flies. Unless
I remember the flies.
Not the bees. Not the bees.
Yeah, there was flies on I think a couple reports of flies. Middle of winter, hundreds of flies in the house. Kind of like the flies on a certain paranormal paracelebs show when they brought a certain spooky doll in, and there was one fly. And then they said they've never had flies in his building before. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's mysterious how flies just show up. And honestly, yeah, who knows if there was hundreds, but you know, if it's an old house and it's the winter and you have a warm day, there is the possibility there could be a few flies that start buzzing around. So it's not that strange.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I mean, exaggeration comes into play here. I mean, keep in mind that people, it's common to say things like, oh, like everybody says this or everybody says that, or there were a million things or something like that. So thousands of flies could mean 10. You know, if you're in a room, I mean, one fly is annoying enough, honestly. And if you have 3 or 4, that really gets annoying because they're all over the place and you're like smacking them away and they're buzzing and it seems like a lot. So I can see this is just a possibility or just a different interpretation is that maybe 3 or 4 flies were just annoying enough and freaked them out enough that they're like, oh, there were hundreds. We don't know. Yeah. We simply don't know. That's what it comes down to.
You know, a room with 25 flies in it would not make me leave the room, but a room with 10 bees in it, I'm leaving and shutting the damn door. I'm like, that room is
10 flies, I go get a freaking bug bomb.
Yeah. But bees, I'm out.
Sammy. Definitely Sammy. Melissa. Team Sam. Yeah, fuck that. All right, I'm looking. I don't see. I'm trying to catch up here. I caught up. All right, no more questions. So we're good. All right, closing thoughts. Dave, I mean, you pretty much said anyway. Sum it up, Dave.
I think it's a bunch of bullshit, honestly. I do. I mean, I love the story. I love the book. The movie. I loved it more as a kid.
Right.
It was great. But the more you dig into it, and the lawyer saying they made it up, and a lot of things they checked on and they didn't actually happen, and the subsequent owners moving in and nothing ever happened. I think it's bullshit. To me, what's more interesting, and we didn't get into it, but it might be a topic for another show, is, you know, why do people continue to believe these things even though they've been proven to not be true, or not just with the paranormal, but with anything? Why do you?
That's my topic.
Accept and believe things that have been. What's that, Tim?
That's my topic. I call it.
Every topic.
Or the next topic is, why do some people feel they have to steal others' topics as we go along? No. But to me, that's where I kind of, as I went down, as Tim does, these rabbit holes on this, I started reading up on that. And I'm like, wow, there's really some fascinating stuff that goes on here as to why people continue to believe things, even though it's obvious they're not true anymore, that the facts have been set straight. And in this case, there's nothing demonic. That didn't happen. They made it up. They made some money off of it. That's the way it is. But people still want to believe it. And I'll leave it with the one quote I came across. What was it? Factually inaccurate, but socially correct.
Ooh.
Because people want to belong. They want to belong part of a group. And instead of accepting new facts and accepting things that are correct, they'd rather continue to believe and perpetuate certain things in order to belong to a group. And if you look at the paranormal community, I think that's a lot of what happens and why a lot of people still might believe in this.
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of interesting psychology going on there that we can talk about. And, you know, the other thing I stumbled across is, why do these things still have legs? Why do people still believe it? They made a good point, because people still talk about it. And honestly, I had a laugh as I'm reading that, because I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about it again tonight. So this author of the article I was reading, they're like, yeah, even if you're trying to talk about it in a good way and set the record straight, guess what? You're feeding the monster. You're still bringing it up again, and you're talking about it again. So so Tim already got the topic for next week, probably. Maybe we'll talk about that. But there's some really interesting psychology going on there that I'd like to dive into, and I think this case is probably one that is part of that. So
cool.
That's it.
Tim.
I'd just like to do that because it's kind of funny. Steal all the topics.
You call dibs, and then when it comes time to do it, you're like, no, I don't want to do it.
No, that's good. I'll just fucking with everybody. Actually, for next week, I was kind of thinking, I saw last week people had asked in the chat about Krampus. So thought maybe I would dig into the history and the story of Krampus due to the festive season.
Donna will love that. She's a big Krampus fan.
Cool.
There's not a whole lot to say after Dave. The bigger mystery, and I agree with Dave. The more fascinating thing about this whole story is why it still perpetuates, and that is fascinating. That's fascinating to me. That's far more fascinating than the allegations of the hauntings and the demons and stuff. I don't know. This is just looks like it's so demonstratively shown to be false, but yet still I can't do it again. I don't.
Damn.
I'm not even sure if I used that word correctly, but I think I did. Even though I think it's been shown to be wrong, it just seems like it still sticks. So there's just a lot there. Before in the pre-show, we were kind of talking. I know that this might be not a good movie or not a good story, but I think that I would love to see a story about the story of the Amityville and all the lawsuits that happened, not necessarily in so much depth, but just not necessarily as a documentary, just how crazy it's just the story from behind the scenes sounds like it's crazy. Like it's just lawsuit after lawsuit. Right. People trying to make stuff out of it that's not there for profit, for their own gains. There's not a lot in here that when I read about that, they're just, focusing on the victims, just saying, hey, while we're talking about this, don't forget there's people that were murdered and there's people that lost their lives. Let's think about that just for a minute. Not that necessarily you have to pay homage to it, but I think it's always respectful when you're making something, maybe some profit, maybe you're gaining some at least social, that you take a moment to just reflect and think, we're going to talk about 5 people that were murdered and a couple of children. So let's just keep that in mind as well too. But that's just my perspective. But I don't know. It's a Warren, so it's over. As soon as you see the Warrens, it's over.
All right. So I'll sum it up here, and I agree with both of you. I mean, it's an interesting point that you bring up, Dave, about talking about it keeps it going. It still is alive because we do go back and talk about it, and I get I'm torn, because sometimes I wouldn't just forget it, because it is we did determine it was a hoax. There's so much evidence that shows, yes, it was made up and this stuff didn't happen. But then again, when I go to like paranormal conventions or talk to groups and it comes up where people are like, oh yeah, Amityville, that really happened. That's real. That's a real place. And I'm like, no, it's not. Did you even read? Did you read? And that's where it comes in. Before I get the sarcastic attitude that comes out, it's usually like, what do you mean it's real? What part is real? I'm like, well, all of it. And the more you question, and this is par for the course, this is what we've all dealt with before. When you start questioning them, they don't know what's real. They just know the story, the overall story is real. And when you get down to like specifics, they don't have any. And they can't back it up, or they didn't read about it. They didn't get into the documents. What documents? Court documents for what? So much. And it's amazing that the three of us can put more work in one day than many of these people that blindly accept it can do in years because they just refuse to. They readily accept it. Fires me up.
I mean,
anyway,
the research we do and the things we find, it's not secret.
Right. It's not.
I mean, it's called Google, and it's called Amazon, and you can order books, and I know they can steal a lot of knowledge in books and stuff. It's pretty tricky, but
even Google Scholar has Google Law.
Instead of just listening to what somebody says and believing it, look into it, dig a little bit.
Oh, John Kennedy, I love you. You're so funny. All right. So with that, I mean, there's nothing to convince me it's anything other than a hoax. It was a ploy to make money, and it was successful. I don't know how much money they all ended up with after the lawsuits between each other, but somebody made money. So I guess it worked for them. But it's also, I mean, the consequences were the neighborhood has now been forever scarred because they had that reputation. Even when you go up there, I had a chance to visit the Historical Society up there, and they just didn't want to talk about it. They just were flat out refused. No, we don't care. It was a hoax. We don't want to talk about it. And all right, there's not much more you can do, with that. So lesson learned. But I hope everyone enjoyed the show tonight. Next week is Tim. Tim, you're up, right? Next week? Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Oh, it's like the week before Christmas too, right? So maybe that's Krampus. That would be a good topic. I'm sure Donna will be up.
It's a good topic, yeah.
Yeah. Damn, I hate Krampus. Now I'm gonna have to research it. Oh well. Anything coming up, you guys? Dave, got anything coming up?
Nothing coming up.
Tim, anything coming up?
Nope.
You ready for this? I have nothing coming up the rest of the year.
Nice.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
I know.
Enjoy the break.
That's right. Except I do have an announcement. I do have one announcement, non-paranormal announcement. I have finally put in my notice at my shitty job that has been killing me and making me miserable for the last couple years. So I'm actually going back to a job that I did love, which I start next week. Not this week coming up, but the following week. So there'll be a change. I won't have to worry about rushing home to get to my Friday night show. I'll already be home and pre-gaming for hours before the show. So
excellent.
Yeah, excellent. So, all right, guys. Thanks for the show tonight. We had a good time. I enjoyed it. I love talking about this stuff. And we will see you all next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. Let me get the ending video.
All right.
I'll do a Tim Vicker here. All right. See
Yo-ho.
you later, guys. Bye.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Portraits.